Wes, hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, and welcome to yet another review video. Well then, back by a popular demand are the reviews of the Rings of Power, or Rings of Prime as I like to call them. And since this is a preparation week, I'm a teacher, so we are only preparing the school, I have a little bit of time. So I watched it, and I have to provide you with my reaction right away. Of course, me being a lifelong Tolkien fan and aficionado, I couldn't skip on the opportunity to say how bad the first episode of the second season of The Rings of Power is. There are two more episodes, of course, and I'm going to review them one by one. I have to say, quite honestly, this is the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. Honestly, because I know what it was supposed to be. We all thought, when it was announced years ago, the show, that it would be adapting The Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion. Then we got to know that, oh, it's actually going to be the appendices, but no, it's not even that. And if you thought that they were going to improve slightly and a little bit from season one, they are absolutely not. Now, the worst thing they did in this show is, and they are doubling down on this in second season, is that they are making Galadriel kind of a emotionally deranged, in that way that they are always doubting if she is good or bad, and what are her goals and what is really her motivation. They think that she's falling to the dark side, quote unquote, and that she's being seduced by Sauron. And they are doing the opposite to Sauron. They literally have doubled down on making him into a likable character, a likable villain. This has been a trend for the last couple of years, making villains, or de-villainizing villains, making them really into troubled souls. That is not really their fault that they are bad, that they are mean. Sauron isn't evil. No, they hinted on it in the first season, right? When they said, well, it is something evil from the beginning. And then, of course, quite obviously, we had to expect that they would double down on this. Well, let me start. So we start with kind of a prologue, or a prequel to the first season and how it really started. So we start at the beginning of the Second Age, as they say at the beginning, where Sauron looks like a bloke, a normal guy, played by a different guy than Halbrand, and he's speaking to a couple of orcs. There's not really orc legions. He isn't at any peak of a mountain, or at any like dark and massive altar that that he would be talking about, like I am the master, Morgoth has fallen and we shall now conquer earth. No, it's in a cave, and he's speaking to them as somebody they really hadn't known before, as some sort of cabal or a sect being formed. And there's Adar, the Amazon's original character, like the first dark elf orc, and so he gives him a crown. He is about to crown him, and then he stabs him with a crown, and the orcs stab Sauron to death. Light spews out of his mouth, and he creates the Dark Land. And then he dissolves, and his blood trickles down the caves into the underground, where he becomes a slime that eats rats and centipedes. And he crawls out of the mountains. He eats a woman, peasant, and he takes the form of Halbrand. And he travels, and yes, there are going to be spoilers, but I don't give a flying toss about spoiling this piece of crap. He travels and he meets travelers who are escaping from orc attacks. And by the way, before that, Adar becomes the lord of the orcs, not Sauron, but Adar. And he joins those travelers, and he gets on a ship with them, and the ship is sunk. And then he gets on a raft, and he meets Galadriel in season 1. So that's who Sauron is. This has got nothing to do with the character from the books. Absolutely nothing. This is Amazon's original character that bears the name Sauron. Now, we move to Galadriel, and that's where it becomes like mental again. So Galadriel is apprehended or stopped. Her story, here starts with her riding a horse, and she's stopped by Middle Eastern elves. They look like that, and they take her to Gil-galad and to Elrond. And Elrond has been ratting on her, and he told Gil-galad that she's been hiding an evil man from you, the Halbrand guy. And so Gil-galad says, "Who have you been hiding? Who is he?" And so she says, "Sauron." He's like, "Why have you been hiding him from us?" She's like, "He deceived me." This is strictly anti-canonical, because as we know from the appendices and from the Silmarillion, Galadriel wasn't really like the first elf not to be fooled by, Sauron in disguise. It was really Anatar, but we know that Anatar is going to be in the second season now. So can you see how much of a goulash, how much of a mishmash it is? I mean, they throw here and there something that you say, oh yeah, they took this name from the appendices. For example, they were arguing about the rings, because Elrond is all against the 3 rings that they created at the end of the first season. And he says, "Oh no, we can't use them." And Galadriel and Gil-galad are like, "Yes, we have to use them. They are life potions, they are mana for elves, so we don't dwindle." All right. And Elrond says, "But what if they are dark? Sauron helped create them." And that's the one single line from the appendices that they used to somehow justify the fact that they've been saying that, oh, second season is going to be more canonical. Galadriel says, "Sauron never touched them." It's like literally in the appendices, like the 3 elven rings are not evil. They are not under his influence because he never touched them. Other than that, they completely missed the point of what the rings actually are. Because at the end of the show, of the first episode, they put on the 3 rings and everything like goes beautiful. The sun comes out and the dwindling of the elves gets postponed. Right then. But before that, they go to Elrond, he's got the rings, and they want the rings from him, and he escapes because he doesn't want to give them the rings. Do you know where he goes? He goes to Círdan, the shipwright, who is the only likable actor in the show. I mean, everything's absolutely anti-canonical and it's cringe, and the dialogue is very bad. I'll get to that. I'll get to the worst part of the dialogue. Jesus. But he goes to Círdan and he says, "You must destroy the rings, Círdan." So Círdan goes and like he sails the ship in the middle of the sea, and he wants to throw the rings in the sea, and then something happens and he sees the rings because the little baggie was in the little baggie. It gets opened and he sees the rings and he's like amazed by the rings. And so he brings them at the end of the episode to the other elves and they put them on. They have very like orgasmic looks on in their eyes when they are put on the rings. It's quite creepy and quite strange. But yeah. So there's the story of Galadriel in that show, in the first episode. We also follow Halbrand a little bit more, Sauron. He lets himself be apprehended by the orcs and taken to Mordor, where he makes a pact with Adar that he will find Sauron for him. Adar doesn't know that he's Sauron, of course. He thinks he killed him. And then he discovers it. Halbrand says to him, "Oh, Sauron is alive, but I will find him for you. The fuck are you talking about? Does that make any sense to you?" I'm basically retelling the story. Does that make any sense to you, what I've said so far? That's exactly what that first episode is. this is my first reaction. I might make a more elaborate review, but I don't think there's any more to say. But I love the scene when Halbrand and Adar are talking about Sauron, and Adar is thinking back. He's remembering when he was captured by Morgoth, and he was put on a peak of a mountain, and then I saw him. I saw his face of Sauron on the top of the mountain. He offered me a glass of red wine, and I drank it all. That's literally what they said. It's very fucking gay. So they basically made Adar gay for Sauron. Well, all right then. It isn't as if, you know, we haven't expected anything like that. So what else have we got here? Yes, we continue our journey of the Harfoot and fake Gandalf. They are traveling through the desert, Nori and Gandalf, the stranger. And basically nothing happens. Well, they have nothing to eat. And so Gandalf tries to do magic, and he destroys a tree, and there are bugs coming from the tree, like hundreds of bugs, big bugs. And Nori is excited, and she says, "Oh, we've got something to eat for weeks." Cut. There's a scene when they are sitting around a fire, they are roasting the bugs and eating the bugs, and Gandalf says, "I can feel its legs in my throat." Nori says, "As the best part, they are dancing." Yeah, so, I mean, if I had to choose one line to prove to you that this is the most badly written show in the history of movie making, that's the line. It's the best part. When you feel bugs' legs in your throat because they are dancing. I'm emotionally exhausted. But also excited. Because I will have many more episodes to laugh about. Right. This is the gist of it. It's very bad. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's all over the place. The story, I don't even know what the story is. It's also convoluted. It's also complicated, but not in a good way. Not in the way that, you know, when you're reading the Silmarillion. It's a jibber-jabber. It's a goulash of invented material. There is nothing, not one single second of it comes from the Lord of the Rings or the appendices. Half a second when they say he never touched the rings. There's nothing. There's nothing in it. Visually, the show is like average for the standards of 2024. You look at what they are capable of doing in fantasy shows and films today. This is average. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'll be back very soon with more videos. I'm out of here.